Man has shown for a long time that he is a cruel and dangerous war animal. Because of this, millions of people have died in wars. But there's something else about war and its aftermath that makes us sick: how far people are willing to go to stop the enemy. We'll look at some of the craziest plans people have come up with to stop the enemy, real or imagined. Can you guess what the best parts are? Well, think about this: using poisonous chemicals, harmless balloon bombs, and a lot of stinky fecal juice bombs. Some of these horrifying plans failed miserably. We will discuss the 10 inventions for the military that they never used. But before we start our countdown, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon as well. 10. The military-grade stink bomb. In 1943, the French military decided to make what they called a military-grade stink bomb. They gave Private Ernest Crocker the foul-smelling task to do. Crocker was a chemist who had worked on a project to make poisonous gases for the military. To make a stink bomb that the French resistance could use, the French would spray the German forces with it to make them look bad. We hope that this would also make them feel bad about themselves. So, Crocker and his team tried out a lot of bad smells for months before deciding to use a formula that made a mix of bad smells. Some of these were urine, vomit, poop, rotten eggs, rancid butter, and the smell of feet. All of it came at once in a powerful spray that they called Who? Me? Once the spray was ready to use, the designers put out 600 units of it. 9. The Goliath tracked mine. In 1940, the German Wehrmacht happened upon a weird prototype vehicle that was controlled by a remote down the River Seine. They found out that this strange-looking car was made by a French car designer named Adolphe Quegresset. Over time, Adolphe's prototype got the Germans thinking, and they came up with their own remote-controlled car. The vehicle was made by German engineers to be used as a weapon against tanks. This was the start of the Goliath tracked mine, a military vehicle that stood 30.5 centimeters tall and was 122 centimeters long. It could carry about 60 kilograms of high explosives. Several officers could control the vehicle from a distance, drive it under enemy tanks, and set off bombs from inside the vehicle. But the Goliath had its own set of problems. First, the remote control feature worked through a 650-meter-long cable that the designers put between the driver and the vehicle. Soon, the soldiers on the other side found out that they could quickly stop the Goliath by cutting this cable. Not only that, but the Goliath moved at a paltry 9.6 kilometers per hour, which was very slow. Even worse, it was easy to get stuck in the ground, and its thin armor cover didn't offer much protection. As expected, the Germans tried to use the Goliath in battle, but they weren't very successful. During the Warsaw Uprising and on the beaches of Normandy, they tried to use the ineffective behemoth. The Germans finally gave up on this failed project in a huff because they were so upset and angry. 8. Fugo balloon bombs. Just before World War II ended, the Japanese military came up with a bad but, let's be honest, clever plan to bomb the US in 1944. The idea came from the Japanese. Well, Japan would drop a few steam bombs over the Pacific Ocean. The bombs would be pushed by the jet stream and aimed for the United States. Japan's top military planners started right away to figure out how to send their explosive-filled paper balloons over the enemy. They planned how to quietly float these across the Pacific, causing fear and panic in the US. On November 3, 1944, the Japanese finally sent up their first dangerous balloon. Between then and 1945, it looks like the Japanese dropped about 1,000 Fugo balloon bombs all over North America. Even though there were many balloon launches, only one balloon caused a person to die. On May 5, 1945, a bomb in the woods near Bly, Oregon, killed a woman and 5 children. The bomb went off by accident when the kids played with the paper balloon that had explosives in it. Because balloon bombs were hard to control, the Japanese had to change their minds about the whole plan. Another factor was that the weather was usually hard to predict. In the end, the Japanese military found that the experimental weapon neither worked nor could be used in the real world. 7. The Panjandrum. In 1943, the British military tried to make a weapon that could break through the Atlantic Wall, which was a large system of defenses along the coast built by the Nazis. The army gave the important job to the Directorate of Miscellaneous Weapons Development. Soon, the DMWD came up with a huge machine they called the Panjandrum. It had 2 wheels connected by a strong axle that looked like a drum. The wheels of the Panjandrum were given rockets so that the machine could move forward. Engineers thought that when the Panjandrum was loaded with explosives, it would shoot toward enemy defenses, hit them, and then blow up. This would hopefully make a big hole that a tank could pass through. Things quickly went wrong, as you might have guessed. During the test, the 70 slow-burning cordite rockets suddenly got loose and flew off in all directions, causing the dogs to bark and the generals to run for their lives. At the same time, the Panjandrum ran around the beach wildly, completely out of control. No one would try this scary experiment in a real battle. 6. Rotor cars. During World War II, the British Army came up with the idea for the Hafner Rota buggy. The thing was basically a flying jeep with a cool name, a rotor, and tail fins. In the end, the weird machine was never used in a war by the military. Mainly because plane-powered gliders proved to be a much better way to get ground vehicles to remote areas. It's interesting that the military later brought back the idea of flying cars. It tried to make folding wing Humvees with collapsible engines. More recently, other engineers came up with the idea of a drone wing that can drop off cargo and wheeled vehicles. The dream of the rotor car keeps going strong. 5. The Bob Semple tank. The Bob Semple has the unfortunate title of possibly the worst military tank ever made. It turned out that the designers of the Bob Semple were trying to fix a bad situation by doing anything and everything. So, the story starts during World War II. When New Zealand was getting more and more worried that Japan might launch a full-scale invasion. When things were like this, it didn't look good for New Zealand. Most likely, the Allies would stop helping New Zealand and leave it on its own. But there's more. Since the country couldn't make armored military vehicles, there was a real and horrible chance that the powerful Japanese war machine would be better than New Zealand. In response, New Zealand's Works Minister, Bob Semple, came up with a clever plan. The military would make a tank in New Zealand to fight back. The chassis of a regular 6-ton bulldozer would be used to make the tank. Bob Semple started putting together 81 D8 Caterpillar tractors quickly and with joy. The people who made these put corrugated iron sheets around them. Evidently, Bob Semple and his men weren't ready for the unlikely war chest that would be the end result. It soon became clear to the overzealous official and his men that the new machine wouldn't live up to its promise. The tank wouldn't be able to protect the 8-person crew inside. So, to fix this, the designers put 6 7.62mm Bren guns on the front, back, and sides of the vehicle. Out came a funny-looking pillbox on wheels that moved at an embarrassingly slow 22.5 km per hour. The Bob Semple tank was never used in battle. 4. Flying platforms. The VZ-1 Pawnee was a one-person flying platform with 2 rotors inside a duct. The duct kept the platform from sinking. Engineers made the machine so that one officer could shoot from the air. But here's the problem: the vehicle didn't have a tail rotor or fixed wings. So, if a pilot wanted to duck to the left or right, he had to change his weight. This was very strange. It's not surprising that, even though the VZ-1 Pawnee did pretty well in tests, military leaders never really put it to use in battle. They thought it was too small, slow, and fragile for real battle. So, the flying platforms project was over. 3. Rocket bullets. The gyrojet and the first rocket bullets were definitely made by MB Associates. Back in the 1960s, they came up with the rocket bullets. The gyrojet was a group of test guns that worked in a different way. The gyrojet shot tiny rockets instead of bullets, and it did so almost silently. But the big gun, which many people say had a cameo in the successful James Bond movie You Only Live Twice, ran into a lot of problems. First, the rocket bullets didn't pick up speed until after they left the barrel. This meant that a soldier couldn't use it for close-range shooting. Also, the gun wasn't very good and got stuck a lot. Because of these things, the engineers gave up on the rocket bullets project when they saw that it wouldn't make a big difference on the battlegrounds. 2. The stealth helicopter. At first, U.S. military engineers thought the RA-66 Comanche would be a real armed scout helicopter for the 21st century. Unfortunately, the disastrous program in the U.S. only left a huge $6.9 billion hole. In the end, even though a lot of money was spent, there wasn't much to show for it. 1. Bat bombs. The bat bombs experiment was yet another one that didn't work out and cost a lot of money. Soon after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, a dentist from Pennsylvania named Lytle S. Adams went to the White House and talked to First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt about what seemed like a great way to get back at the Japanese: attack with bat bombs. The big plan was to drop a bomb with more than 1,000 compartments, each with sleeping bats, that engineers would connect to a timed device that would set fire to the bomb. The deadly bomb would then be dropped over Japan by a bomber at dawn, while the errant bats were still in flight. What would happen next? Simple, the bats would quickly scatter to roofs and attics in a 32-64-kilometer area. Then, when all hell broke loose, the timed explosives would go off, and a huge fire would engulf several Japanese cities, destroying them. It's hard to believe, but the US government actually considered this plan. The matter was taken up by the National Research Defense Committee. The military quickly caught thousands of free-tailed bats in Mexico and made tiny napalm bombs that the bats would carry. The military did more tests and came up with a complicated way to release the bomb. Also, the Marine Corps did 30 quick tests and demonstrations, which cost a whopping $2 million. The Defense Committee later stopped the whole program, which meant that millions of dollars were wasted on a weapon that was never used. So, that's it for today. We hope you enjoy the video. Use the comment section below to tell us what you think about the video. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon. Thanks for watching.